Okay, good to go?
Yeah, live.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Barbara Buckhalter Pollock, and as chair of CB10's Youth Services Education and Libraries Committee, I want to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting, whether you're with us in person or on Zoom. Joining us tonight is Jane Kapitanakis, the chairperson of CB10. Thank you, Chairperson Kapitanakis, for always supporting us and being with us when you can. We appreciate it. I also want to thank Dr. David Preto, District 20's Superintendent of Schools, and Arthur Samuels, co-founder and co-executive director of MESA. Am I saying it correctly?
That's right. Thank you.
Charter Schools, for being with us as presenters. Mr. Samuels will be sharing information about the new MESA Charter High School that's to be built on the former site of the Angel Guardian home via a slide presentation. Dr. Preto will be talking to us about the New York City DOE's Civics for All curriculum and how it will impact students in their communities. Those of us who were present for our last meeting got to see firsthand how sixth grade students from IS 407 have used what they've learned to become stewards of Dyker Park, which is a local green space in District Community Board 10. At the end of each presentation, there'll be time for allotted questions and answers. And now, without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Samuels to introduce the first presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. You have it.
I do.
Thank you so much.
That's
great.
If this technology works, we should be able to.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm joined by Lucia Morales, who is our Director of Communications and External Affairs. This is Lucia's fourth day at MESA, and so we didn't want to quite throw her into the fire. But so she's here, and she's, I think, going to be the person over time who sort of, builds a relationship and gets to know the folks at the community board. I'm really excited to share about the school that we're opening. One small tweak, we're actually not in the Angel Guardian space. We're around the corner from the Angel Guardian space. So no worries. There is a different school that is being built in the Angel Guardian space, from what I understand. But that's not us. I think that's a yeshiva. So they're unrelated, but we're around the corner at 1222 63rd Street between 12th and 13th Avenue. Hi, Tom. How are you? This is Tom Hernandez, who's a MESA.
So wait, just 1222 63rd Street is next door.
That's
it's
correct.
On this, okay.
Yeah. So Angel Guardian, from what I understand,
it was the Angel Guardian home was the campus was the entire block.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I think the entrance there now is on 12th Avenue.
Correct.
Whereas our building
is on 63rd.
It's on 63rd. It's closer to 12th and 13th, but it's like a little
right.
bit
No,
more.
yeah.
Okay.
With two screens. So
yeah.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind showing the slide, sure. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about our organization and its history. MESA stands for Math, Engineering, and Science Academy. Our first school, which is in Bushwick, opened in the fall of 2013, actually in the summer, on August 19th. I'm not sure sort of the relative familiarity that folks have with charter schools. My guess is it's a fair amount, because I know that there are some educators, who are here with us. But one of the things that we have as a charter school is some flexibility to do things a little bit differently. And one of those things that we do differently is our calendar is different from the DOE calendar. So we start much earlier in the school year. We start, probably the third week of August. There are some holidays that the DOE has off that we don't. And then what we do is we sort of use that time to build in like longer breaks. So we have a full week off for Thanksgiving, for example, and we have 2 full weeks during. So we opened in August of 2013 in Bushwick. We are fairly unique within the charter space, not completely, but fairly unique in that we are a standalone high school, meaning there is no feeder middle school for MESA. And so most of the charters that, folks are, in the city are most familiar with, the most high profile ones, are often elementary and middle schools. And then if they have a high school, it's really just a feeder from those elementary and middle schools. We felt like it was really important to create an option for kids who had gone to 8th grade in different systems and were looking for a high school option. And in Bushwick, part of why we wanted to do that was, you know, at that time, the schools there were really struggling. The high school graduation rate in 2012 in Bushwick was 56%. And a lot of parents told us that they felt like their child couldn't get a high quality education, or even go to a school that was safe unless they left the district, right? So their choices were either to, you know, travel into Manhattan, go to another part of Brooklyn, go to Queens, or kind of go to a school that they didn't really want to go to. And so we opened Mesa. The school started with 125 ninth graders. It grew to be 500 students in grades 9 through 12. That's what we currently have. And we are now in our 12th year of instruction. In 2017, we graduated our first class. We've graduated 8 classes overall. Our high school graduation rate in 4 years, aggregate, is 94%. So charters, including Mesa, are not in any way selective in who they take in. The way you get into a charter school is through a lottery. There are very strict regulations about what you can put on the application. So it's purely basic demographic information: name, address, phone number, you know, parent contact info, where you went to middle school. And then we literally have like a raffle drum, and we put all of the applications in and we pull them out one by one. There are priorities given to students who live in the district. So in our Bushwick school, priority goes to kids who live in District 32. With this school, priority will go to kids who live in District 20. But there's no screening, right? There's no, you know, we don't look at your attendance, we don't look at your grades. We can't say, oh, you get a leg up if you have if you go to an info session or anything like that, right? And so that's how students are picked. In 2023, this second school was approved. So I guess one other thing I want to say is, you know, a lot of charters, and again, the ones that are sort of most well known, the charter sector has grown, or certain networks within the charter sector have grown very, very fast, right? And some of the names that people probably know, you know, the most, there's a lot of schools that those, you know, Success is probably the one that's most well known. I think Success has something like 40 schools. We were very slow to grow and to replicate, right? We really wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing. We really wanted to make sure we had a sense of how this should work. After our first year, so our first year, our 125 ninth graders put up very, very good Regents exam pass rates in living environment and in algebra. And the authorizing agency at the state that gives us approval to open came to us and they said, okay, when are you opening Mesa 2? This is in 2014. And we said, you have to be out of your mind, right? Like, we haven't done anything. We have had one grade. We don't have a school. We have a program. Let us figure out how to do this. Let us learn. Let us, you know, concentrate here and grow and build a bench of talent. Let us take some lumps and learn how to, you know, respond to them. And so we waited a long time. We actually put in a proposal to open our second school in 2019, but at that point, there was a cap on the number of charters that were allowed to open in New York City. So we were approved, but we were basically in the queue. And then in 2023, the legislator lifted the cap a little bit and they allowed the operation of another 14 schools. We were one of those that was allowed to open, and then we'll be opening in the fall of 2025, or again, actually in August of 2025. So this is a little bit about what we have done in our Bushwick school and a lot of the same ideas that we want to bring to this school in South Brooklyn. So academics are paramount, right? First and foremost, we are a school. Parents have expectations and they have a right to have high academic expectations for the school that their child attends. And, you know, we think that we've met those with our graduation rate. We're very, very proud of that. But we also understand that that is not sufficient, right? High school graduation is the baseline. It's not the end goal. 70% of our kids graduate with at least 3 college credits. So we send kids to the College Now program through CUNY. We have AP programs, but we also offer opportunities for students to earn college credit through, a lot of our students take something called the CLEP exam. For anyone who's familiar with that, the CLEP is run by College Board, and you can align your courses to these standardized exams. And if they pass the exam, then they earn college credit. We actually get funding that will give the kids a stipend when they pass the test too. So that's like a powerful incentive for them. And then we actually have a partnership with both St. Francis College and with Kingsborough Community College, where our 12th grade math and our 12th grade writing curricula are aligned to their curriculum. And if our kids pass, and we give the same final exam, and if our kids pass the final exam, then Kingsborough and St. Francis will actually grant kids college credit for those classes as well, which means that kids have the opportunity to earn college credit without having to travel, right, or leave. College Now is a great program, but there's been research that shows that it tends to be accessed more by middle and upper income students because they have the means to travel. They can take classes on Saturdays or after school. A lot of our kids have to work or they have like childcare obligations to care for younger siblings. So this makes it more accessible to students. Especially post-pandemic, we really started leaning in and pushed hard for internships, travel abroad college programs. So we have partnerships with dozens of different programs that provide, corporate internships and opportunities for students beyond just summer youth employment. SYEP is great. It's a great way to put money in kids' pockets, but you're not necessarily learning professional skills by participating in those programs. So we have students that are interning at Fortune 500 companies. We send several students abroad every year. They have visited every continent except Antarctica. I haven't done Antarctica yet, and I think we probably won't in the foreseeable future. There's probably a Greenland joke to be made here, but I don't know exactly what it is, so I'm going to pass over that. But we have kids who have gone to Japan, we have kids who have gone to South Africa, we have kids who have gone to Tanzania. And when they go, they actually go as part of a homestay. So it's not just like a tourist visit, they actually live with a family who's there. And I think the common thread and then we also have programs where kids will go and stay on a residential college for 3 weeks during the summer and take classes. And I think the impetus behind that is we want our students to get out of their comfort zone, to take positive risks, to get a sense of the world around them. And I remember vividly a conversation I had with one student who was graduating. She was a senior and she was going to go to SUNY Brockport, which is, way upstate. And I remember asking her, like, look, you're going to SUNY Brockport. It's very different, right? Like Bushwick and Brockport are different places. How are you feeling about that? And she kind of looked at me like I was from Mars. And she said, Mr. Samuels, I just spent a month in Morocco. I think I can handle Brockport. Hey, right, there you go. That's how it's supposed to work. We do all of this through relationship building and nauseating positivity. Our school is really just a love bubble. It's an incredibly warm place. We're working with high school students. A lot of them come to us and they haven't really had a good experience in the K-8 system. And so for us, a lot of this is kind of creating that narrative, like school is a good place to be. It's a place you want to be, and you're going to be welcomed and loved and supported here. So we have a very high student to staff ratio. We have 90 staff for a school of 500 students, right? That's a very, very high ratio. A lot of counseling. So you can see here, we have 3 dedicated college career counselors for a class of 125 seniors. That's a ratio that I'll put up against, what you would pay $65,000 for a private school on the Upper East Side for. And what that does is that allows our counselors to really get to know our kids and help counsel them and their families in their post-secondary decision, whereas I think a lot of times you'll see schools that have counselors with 250, 300 students on a caseload, and then you're kind of checking a box, right? Because it's just too big for any one person to get through. We have 4 dedicated guidance counselors and social workers who just do social emotional work to support our students. All of us can remember high school is tough. You're dealing with a lot of things and everyone needs that support at some point. And so we really try to invest in making sure we have people there. To give you a sense of the academic offerings, and then this is very similar to what we would offer at Mesa South Brooklyn as well. We have an advisory program that kind of becomes the student's home base. So every student is in an advisory with a group of 9 to 12 other students and an advisor. That advisor loops with the advisory, so you'll stay for 4 years with your advisory. Our staff retention rate is about 85% year over year, so we really are looping and keeping people. At graduation, it's actually the advisor who calls the child up to the stage to get their diploma. And so there's always this like incredibly powerful moment of advisors, hugging their kids. There's a lot of tears. Like I said, we're very heavily invested in staff. And so that means a lot of our classes are co-taught. I think there are schools that have ICT models for special education students where, maybe you say, okay, based on the numbers, I need one special education teacher for ninth grade. But then what you have is you have a special education teacher who it's impossible to know the content at that level for all of the different ninth grade subject areas, to say nothing of the upper grades, right? And so you have a teacher who can't really teach because it's just you got 4 or 5 different preps and they're in completely different content areas. There's nobody who can do that. So we've really invested in making sure that our teachers have manageable caseloads, manageable course loads, where they can actually be successful. Nobody has more than 2 preps, right? So that it's manageable. We have 12 different AP course offerings, which again, I think for a school our size is a pretty good menu. And that's, that includes kind of the, what you might call the AP greatest hits, AP Bio, AP US History, AP Language, AP Literature, AP Calc, AP Government. But we're also, all of our sophomores are taking AP Seminar, which is one of the newer AP courses. It didn't exist when I was in high school, but it's part of a 2-year sequence called AP Capstone, which has it's like an AP research class. So kids are really learning research and critical thinking skills there. And then sort of on the other end of the academic spectrum, a lot of our students are, coming in with academic needs and struggles. We have a lot of English language learners who are new to the country. And so we also have a number of very, very small courses that are targeted to support them with specialized instruction. And that's something that we would expect to do at our second school as well. So, why are we here, right? Why are you, am I taking up your time with this presentation? And you've been so gracious to invite us. As we thought about growth and we surveyed the landscape of schools in New York City, District 20 high schools were interesting because District 20 is really one of the last districts that doesn't have small high schools. As you all know, right, there are basically 4 high schools within the district that start at 9th grade. There's the Urban Assembly School, which is 6th through 12th, but there is Fort Hamilton, New Utrecht, Telecommunications, and FDR, right? And these are all very, very big. And even at the CEC presentation, right, that we attended, some of the principals talked about having to have multiple, I don't know what the right word is, but like, there where would be, one group comes from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. and the sessions moment, right? Yeah. That's hard, right? And that means that there's not an option locally for kids who might benefit from a small school, right? So, I want to kind of name that like charters are a controversial thing. They take up a lot of, there's a lot of ink, there's a lot of editorials in the New York Post, there's all of this stuff about charter schools. I'm not particularly interested in any sort of charter politics or charter war. I care about good schools and I care about options for parents. I think that there are some phenomenal charter schools and then there are some charter schools that I wouldn't send my worst enemy to. And I think that there are some phenomenal district schools, and I know that there are some district schools that struggle. The reason that we created our first school and wanted to do our second school is to give parents choice and option. And I think here, there isn't an option locally, and this is something we heard as we talked to parents, for parents who want a smaller school, right? A more intimate environment for their child. So there are some kids who can go to a 5,000 student school and thrive. And they're great, right? And that school has a wealth of options to offer them because you can do things with 5,000 kids that you can't do with 500. But there are some kids who are going to get lost in that. And so for us, it was really important to create that. And so that's really been the driving impetus behind this. I think what that means is a lot of opportunities for family input. We are founding a school, but really the people founding the school are the kids and the parents who attend that school. One thing we said to our first class at our first school, and we're saying it to students as we talk to them now for Mesa South Brooklyn, you are the freshmen, but you're also the seniors, right? You will always be the seniors at this school. And that means that these kids and these families have a unique opportunity to put their imprint on this school in a way that you really can't in a place that's been around for a long time, right? So when kids say to me, well, what extracurriculars and clubs do you have, right? The answer is, what extracurriculars and clubs do you want? When kids say, what sports will you have? The answer is, what sports are important to you, right? As we've talked about, like one thing we've heard from families here is that table tennis is really important, right? That's a sport that a lot of kids play. That's not as popular in Bushwick. But that's the beauty of founding and being different and being community responsive. I'm talking to parents right now about what STEM offerings they want to see beyond sort of the standard core curriculum. There's a real opportunity, like literally down to painting the walls of the building. We're actually leaving a few of our walls unpainted because we want to give our founding class of students the opportunity to come in and design and paint those walls in the way that they want to over the summer, so that they can feel that sense of ownership, right? And there's a feeling about walking into a high school as a ninth grader and we're like, I did that, I made that, I painted that. That's really powerful and important. And so I also wanted to, appeal for your help. We are growing, right? So we are currently hiring for staff for that school. Some of the staff there will be seated with folks from our current school because they know and understand the culture and they've lived it. But we're also going to be hiring more people. I really want to hire, we've done this in Bushwick very successfully, and I would love to replicate it here. We've built really strong connections with the community board there, with local CBOs there. They provide us with resources and help. There are times when we have a student who really needs, help from the city, and either, a connection at the community board or one of the local CBOs can help us. We have kids who have faced eviction, and our local community board or elected officials have helped us get them pro bono counsel so that they can fight that off, right? It makes a difference in kids' lives when the school is interfacing with community institutions. So it's really important to me to build that relationship. I want to hire as many staff as we can from the community, right, from the district, especially for certain particular roles. So we're currently looking for a family coordinator right now. I would love any help for we sort of knowing who our population is likely to be. We think that person has to speak Mandarin. Just knowing how many of our students are coming from Chinese speaking families. That role at Mesa Bushwick, we were sort of non-negotiable that had to be a Spanish speaker because that was the community that's there. But we have teachers, we have operations professionals. Our dean of students was born and raised in the district and has been there his whole life. One of our college counselors, this is, sort of an example of who we are. So one of our college counselors grew up in Bushwick. He went to the same local middle school as a lot of our students. He went to SUNY Morrisville and then Albany, and then he did Teach for America, and he taught in Chicago for a couple of years. And he came back and he taught at Mesa for a number of years and then became a college counselor. Our valedictorian was on his caseload. And actually, when he was growing up, he used to buy sandwiches from her dad at the bodega, right? So that's nice and that's heartwarming, but it also is really powerful because that woman got into Cornell. She got a full scholarship to Cornell, but her parents were very hesitant to let her go away, right? That's a big deal to let your daughter go away. And because he had that history and relationship with them, he was able to sort of gradually over time say, look, I understand, I get it, I know.
Trust.
But you have that opportunity, right? Like, this is going to be a game changer for her. And ultimately, they trusted him enough. Think about the risk think about the courage that takes to let your child go 6 hours away, right? But because of that relationship and because of that history, we were able to make that, And so I want to replicate the same thing here. I know that, having those roots is incredibly powerful. And then I guess the last thing I would ask for is, feedback. So as we build our school, we want to know what's working and what's not, right? We didn't come in saying we're going to have table tennis. That was the thing the parents told us was important. If you see or hear things that we should have, I want to know those, right? Because the great thing about sort of being small and nimble and starting is we can make that change. We can make those adjustments. In our first school, the first year, parents came to me and they said, well, why haven't we heard about school dances yet? You're so focused on academics, but like our kids are in high school, they need to do that. And we said, you are absolutely right. And that was a blind spot for us. So we had this really great Valentine's Day dance, right? That the kids planned, right? And so I think we have found that partnership, we don't have a like, here's our model, here's how we're doing it, our way or the highway. It's very collaborative and we really want the feedback from our families. Very quickly, just so you know, the way that families apply is they can go on our website where there's that QR code and we'll send more information as well. It's a lottery admission, like I said, so priority for students who live in District 20. The deadline is April 1st. It is a completely separate process from the DOE process. So you can apply to your DOE schools and apply to Mesa or any other charter school. And those two things exist completely independent of each other. You can get into telecommunications and get into Mesa, and then you can choose. You can be on the wait list at Murrow and get into Mesa, and then you get off the wait list at Murrow and you say, Mesa, sorry, I'm going to go to Murrow. And we say, we're delighted for you. That sounds like a great option for you. We'll go to the next child on our wait list. I want every single child to have a great education, right? For some of them, they'll find that education. For some of them, they'll find that at other places, but I don't think choice ever. And I think that's my last slide. Oh, and then just this is contact info. So that's my info. This is your student info. Those are our cell phones. So there's no like thing you have to go through, like that it goes here. I'm pretty quick to respond. Tom can attest. Parents get that, right? So parents get the principal's information. Same with Lucia. And then I think the last slide just says like questions. Yes.
Okay.
So thank you. So just I really want to thank everyone for taking the time and listening to my spiel.
Okay, that's cool, yes.
Okay, so I guess at this point, we're going to open up the meeting to questions from our Zoom and in-person participants.
Question? Okay.
You mentioned that you had about 125 graduates, so is that like your average class size?
Yeah.
So you're aiming for about 500 when the building is full?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I understood.
Yeah.
And for your opening, it's opening with 9th grade only,
That's correct.
and it'll be growing every year.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you have a priority for students within the district. So, and that it's a lottery system. So is there a second drum if your zip code is here?
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah,
could
so
just
sure, I can
explain that.
explain how it works. And
Thank
actually,
you.
as we grow out, then there's also a sibling priority,
Okay,
right? And there's a sibling priority for twins, which happens.
Right.
Right. So we do have some sets of twins who will apply, and so if one gets in, the other one. Yeah, the way it works is it's basically two lotteries that take place one after the other. So first, so we get all of our applicants. Let's say we get, at our Bushwick school, we get about 600 applicants for, the 125 seats,
125.
right? We separate them out. First, we do siblings, great, right? Then we take all of the students who live in the district and we do a lottery with them. Let's say that after we do siblings, let's say there are 100 remaining seats, right? We fill 25 with siblings. There's 100 remaining seats, and then there are 150 applicants from in-district. So we do our lottery. The first 100 who get picked, you get a seat that night. The next 50 are spots 1 through 50 on our wait list. Then we go to students who live outside the district. their seats 51 through whatever on the wait list. There is also no distinction between, like, if you live outside of the district, there's no distinction between whether you live in District 24, District 16, or anything like that. So it's an on-off switch. You're in the district or you're out. So here we're adjacent to 15, we're adjacent to 17, we're adjacent to 21. But you could live in District 21 or you could live in Yonkers, and it wouldn't make a difference.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have, I'm Josephine Beckman, the district manager of the community board, and just to share with you, so I know some of the neighbors who are in attendance did have some concerns because there will be 3 schools on one block. There will be the yeshiva school, there will be the charter school, and there's a K-5 school actually on 13th Avenue.
Yeah.
So do you have a sense of, are your hours, do they mirror the same, arrival and departure hours? We have not yet met with the yeshiva to talk about their hours of operation, but we do have a concern about the numbers of students that will be on one block.
Yeah. I can't speak to the yeshiva.
No, I know that we're
Yeah.
working on inviting them as well.
Our hours are actually, I'm glad you asked this. Our hours will not overlap because we start at 9 o'clock and we dismiss around 4. And the reason, and on certain days we dismiss a little bit earlier than that, but the reason that we do that is there's actually a lot of research that shows that for high school students, their brains are growing and developing, some faster than others, and they, and they sleep longer and they go to bed later and they sleep later. So there's a lot of research that's been pointing for years to the benefits of starting high school later than other schools. So we start at 9 o'clock. That's actually been what we've done our entire career. I always find it, it's like they did this whole, highly controlled study to prove that high school students like to sleep, right? Which literally any of us who, have been or had a teenager could tell you. But so I think for that, I think that will certainly help with it. We also have a lot of presence outside the building at arrival, so we're and dismissal. Currently at our Bushwick school, we actually share the building with 2 other schools. So everyone's coming in the same entrance. We are staggered later than them. It's a middle school and a transfer high school, but because we're later, we don't really have much overlap. But we also very heavily staff arrival with our most senior people. So our principal is out in front every day. Our dean of students is out in front every day. Once kids come in, then they're met by our family coordinator and our director of operations and a handful of other people. So we're very heavily staffed there. We'll also have security just in case, there's any need for any security, but we will have security there as well. But we try to make arrival a really warm part of the school day, right? It's, kids are coming to school and it's important that the first encounter they have is a very, positive and welcoming one. And even actually if kids are late, this I think sort of speaks to our ethos a little bit. And I think, especially as educators on the committee, you'll appreciate this. So at a lot of other schools, if kids are late, we'll ask at our orientation, we'll ask kids, like, if you're late, what happens at your school? And they'll say, oh, the dean calls my mom, or I get a pass, or I get a late pass, or I get a demerit. And then we tell them what happens at Mesa, which is if you're late, this is why we have a lot of staff. One of the reasons we have a lot of staff down at the level. You take out your phone and you call your parents and you tell them that you're late, because now you're in high school, right? And so this is your accountability, right? Like, I wasn't late. I shouldn't call your mom. You're the one who was late. You should call your mom. And we do it in a very sort of warm way, right? And so you'll see kids sort of like sheepishly call their parents, and mom will say, why are you late? You live 2 blocks away. You left an hour ago. I know you went to the bodega, But then what that also enables us to do is when that student is on time the next day, we will also call the parent to say, hey, I'm really, Tom was late yesterday and I know we called, but I'm really excited to, it's 8:55 and he's here and we wanted to tell you, we'll take a selfie with the kid, right? And send it to the parents so they can see. So there's a ton of positive feedback that's going. But so in terms of the concern, one, the hours will be staggered, and two, we will heavily staff it to make sure that everything is smooth.
Barbara? Back to you.
Yeah, I had actually two questions.
Mhm.
We have been talking since we had the presentation with our middle school students a couple of weeks ago or last month. We've been talking about partnerships between schools within the district,
Yeah.
not just public schools, but public schools and private schools and parochial schools. How amenable would you be to something like that in terms of your students?
Extremely. I think that sounds great. I mean, we do some partnership with the middle school that we're co-located with. Um, I know that sort of co-locations are very contentious in New York City for, a lot of reasons. And I know that when charters are involved, it adds a whole different layer of it. We actually we have been told one of, if not the best co-location relationship in the entire city. We share resources with the other two schools that are in our building. One of our co-located schools is a transfer high school, so they're very small. And a couple of years ago, they didn't have enough kids to field a basketball team. And we've known the principal there for 12 years. And so he came to us and said, could our kids play on your basketball team? Because for a lot of their students, basketball is the thing that gets them to come to school, right? If they can't play basketball, they're not going to come to school, they're not going to graduate. And we said, of course. So their kids play on our basketball team. And there have been times that I also don't want to make it sound like it only runs one way. There was we had a tragedy several years ago where one of our students passed away, had an asthma attack. And that school offered their guidance counselors to us to sort of provide grief and counseling support for our students. In part because our guidance counselors were sort of, deluged, and in part because our guidance counselors were dealing with it too, right? It was really traumatic. So I've seen the benefits of what it looks like when there's that kind of partnership, and so amenable doesn't even begin to describe it. I am eager, I am excited. If you want to give people my email and my phone number, I'm ready to go.
Thank you.
Did you say you had another question?
I'm assuming that you can take children with physical disabilities as well, right? Yeah.
Yes. With physical disabilities, with learning disabilities, our building is 100% ADA compliant. Charters by law are required to, and beyond being required to, I think it is our obligation to serve any student that comes through our doors. At our current school, I think right now about 16% of our students have IEPs. And those IEPs sort of range in terms of what they call for, from like related services like speech, to kids with severe literacy needs. We run a program called Wilson, for those who, right? So it's a literacy program. I think it was originally designed actually for adults who are trying to learn to read, and then it was kind of modified for high school students. But they basically get one-on-one daily reading instruction. And I've had kids who come in without a basic conception of phonics, right? They don't know that letters have sounds. And they're sitting there in ninth grade learning that A says ah. And if that's where they are, then that's where we'll meet them. And, the students who I'm thinking of who that happened, like they graduated from Mesa in 4 years. I guess one other thing that's really important to me that I want to say is we keep our students. So our graduating class is just as big as our incoming freshman class. One of the things that I have asked our board of trustees to evaluate me on is our student retention. I don't want to be a school that has a 95% graduation rate because 50% of the kids left, right? I'm not trying to graduate 90% of the survivors. I want to get everybody who came in. And so last year, and this has been pretty typical, we retained 97% of students. The only kids that we exclude from that calculation are kids who move out of state, right? Because they're relocating for geographic reasons. Bushwick is gentrifying very rapidly, and unfortunately, a lot of the kids are getting pushed out. But so we keep our kids, we serve every single student. It's really important to us.
Barbara?
Are there any other questions for Mr. Samuels at this time? I can't see Josephine, so you have to tell me. Are there any other?
No other questions?
Okay, so I want to thank you for your presentation, and we will move on now to Dr. Benedetto.
No, Dr.
I said the wrong name. I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Preda.
That's
Preda?
okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My
That's
cold
okay.
medicine.
It's all right. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I know that at your last meeting you were able to have the opportunity to hear from some of our students from junior high school 407 and the work that they've done within the Civics for All district-wide partnership that we've had in the district for the last 4 years now. So I'm really excited about them. I'm here to present on that topic, and I'm going to share my screen. So, Civics for All is an initiative through New York City Public Schools, and District 20 was the second or third district in the city who took on a district-wide approach. So previously, Civics for All has been around in New York City Public Schools for a few years, and it was a school-by-school thing. And I'll describe the different components, but we took the opportunity early on to bring on a district-wide partnership and have all of our schools engage in it because of all the reasons that I think that the board would be excited about work like this. It's important to teach our students to be involved citizens and to understand the structure and the process of government, and at the local, at the state, at the national level, and not just have abstract knowledge of it, but also engage in it directly. How can they engage directly in the types of activities that involved citizens do when they want to effect change, when they want to let their voice be heard, and when they want to understand how structures exist so that democracy works. So that's for all those reasons and more, Civics for All was like a really important piece for me to bring to the district. And it's been amazing the work that the principals, the teachers, and students have been able to bring as a result. So I'm just going to describe the structure. So first, this is just a map of the city. You'll see now that Civics for All has spread significantly across the city. We were one of the first districts. We're down there on the lower left. I'm sure you all are familiar with the location of 20. Previously, districts 25 and 26 were the only other districts that took on a district-wide approach. And we came on a few years ago as well. Now this initiative has spread across the entire city. There's only a couple of districts that aren't doing it. And it speaks to just the quality and the power and the level of engagement that students are able to engage in. And you'll see in the description over here on the left, the three kind of like signature pieces of Civics for All are Soapbox NYC, which the participatory budgeting piece, and then take action projects. I'll also kind of review the curricular options and all of its connection to our core social studies program, Passport to Social Studies. So the first piece I'll talk about is the participatory budgeting structure. So, every year we partner with New York City Public Schools to essentially get a few $1,000 for this year, 30 of our schools. And we work with students. Typically in our District 20 schools, it's the student council, but we also have other student groups that are the student leaders that engage their principals, their teachers, and then their peers in a democratic process to determine how to identify problems or wishes or desires or ways to improve the school, and then use these funds to make that happen. So this is one of the really kind of it's fun, but it's also like incredibly important in seeing how students are able to learn a variety of skills that are required in the 21st century when you want to do civic engagement. the budgeting part is just one, but also like using digital communication as well as in-person communication to elicit feedback from peers, and then communicate about what types of decisions are going to be made and what structures are going to be put in place in order for the right thing to happen. And this has been a huge success, not just for what the money's been spent on, but also just watching and supporting students in engaging in all those democratic process pieces. They get very excited about the voting. It's very structured in all of our schools, and I've visited schools many times and voted myself for the various projects that students advocate for spending this money on. We've started school stores, we've installed bottle filling stations, we've started little gardens, we've bought furniture. One school, this was a new one. They decided that they wanted to eat lunch outside. They never got to eat lunch outside, so they wanted to use the money, and they voted on it to purchase outdoor tables with umbrellas, so that when the weather was nice, they could. And it's one of those things where that the school has funds and they allocate funds to this and that and the other, and somebody might say, "Oh, why didn't the school just buy them tables?" The beauty of this work is that it's all student generated. The level of pride and accomplishment that students take in spending this couple $1,000 into something is it's invaluable, and really infuses a tremendous amount of energy into the school and then across the district. So participatory budgeting is a particular piece that's really special to us. And then obviously for community board, for city council people, for participatory budgeting is a real this is a real structure that as residents of New York City, it's a great opportunity for public dollars to be allocated to local areas of need. And so it's also a not so subtle way to teach our students about the power and value of local civic engagement to improve their community. So it's a layered structure, and definitely a win. So and then one other piece that's just a huge opportunity is just another way to very publicly provide students with leadership opportunities. How are they able to kind of not just learn about structures and processes, but also learn how to lead, and learn about the good part of leading, and also the challenges. Sitting with groups of students. I do this when I visit schools. One of the things that I was sharing before the meeting started, is I sit with students and ask them how it's going. Frequently, it's a student government, not always. And one of the most common themes is the discussion around how their Civics for All work is going, usually participatory budgeting, or their soapbox speeches, but usually participatory budgeting, and just, kind of like how they troubleshooted challenges. How did they deal with the kindergartners have a hard time voting? Like, how do we get votes from kindergartners? Is it important to get votes from kindergartners? Are we going to debate this? And I would always push them to do that. But like the challenges of leadership and making sure that everyone's voice is heard and that the democratic process is honored is amazing to watch with 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, as well as middle school kids. It's a district-wide initiative, so elementary as well as middle school kids. The second foundation of Civics for All is Soapbox NYC. So Soapbox NYC is a structure in partnership with an organization called Mikva Challenge. And it's essentially a public speaking structure where students identify a local topic or issue facing young people or themselves in the community. It's really focused on engaging students in the research process after identifying a problem that they feel is the most important one facing young people, and developing a speech that incorporates the research that they do on it. And most importantly, I think, and this is a piece that I always share, is around proposal of solutions. I like to say that one of the, you know, rights of all people, especially New Yorkers, is the right to complain. And this is a place where students not just get to, you know, complain, but also, you know, really push to propose solutions to the issues that they've found and back them all up with research. So this is something that we engage pre-K through 8th grade students in, and we have the pre-K research looks a little different than the 8th grade, but you know, we engage and provide the opportunity at, you know, differing levels across all of our schools. And and the city, this is one of our first events. The city holds a citywide Soapbox NYC event where winners from the different districts or schools would engage in a citywide Soapbox speech delivery competition. We in District 20, so we send students to the main competition for the last few years. But we also hold a district-wide one in May where we invite students from all the schools in the district to one of our schools and engage in different grade level soapbox speech competitions where you have several classrooms of 20 to 30 students who are all listening to and delivering their speeches to each other and then providing each other with feedback and it's an amazing event. We really love Soapbox NYC. It's something that really kind of took on quickly, and the teachers in the district have done an incredible job of like fostering this work and making the connections to the work that they do in social studies, ELA. I mean, it's essentially crafting an argument, but then having to deliver it in person, orally. So this is an amazing piece, and we're really proud of this work that we've done in the district. And then the Take Action projects, I'll just speak about them for a second. Take Action projects are an extension of the Soapbox speeches. So a lot of students engage in projects where they take some of these issues and then they design a solution for them, and they actually go out and start these things. I don't have like a description for it here, but that's a piece that isn't something that that is very school based. So it's usually a group. It's not usually going to be something that one student does by themselves. It's usually going to be done in a group. So in varying levels across all of our schools, we'll have groups of students engaging in Take Action projects. And part of our Civics for All Expo that we have at the end of the year is students presenting their Take Action projects and kind of showing what they did in response to the research that they did and the proposed solutions that they had, and you know, kind of sometimes taking a step forward and describing the process for how they engaged in that solution that they identified. Civics for All, this is the maybe the least exciting for the kids, but definitely a very relevant one, is the curriculum. Civics for All is also a curriculum that goes from K-12. And so obviously in District 20, we engage our students in the Civics for All curriculum, and this includes instruction on these different pieces that we talked about before, and also pieces around just general civics, like understanding community engagement, understanding the structure of government, and it is a complement to our social studies curriculum. So our teachers over the last several years have been doing a lot of learning, and we've provided professional development at the district level from one of my district achievement instructional specialists, one of my coaches on my team. Her name's Tracy McCarthy-Knorr. She provides PD to our social studies teachers and our Civics for All teachers in these different curriculum options. But there's also curriculum. So over the course of the year, students in our schools engage in curriculum that is tied to learning about civics. And then in addition to that, Civics for All has a lot of different additional resources. The civics team has also done a lot of work, and this is connected to the social studies team in New York City Public Schools, in addition to learning about elections and participatory budgeting. And then the voting work is they've also started to write a lot of comics, and they've done a lot of comic writing and development of book content that's not directly connected to civics. Within the social studies curriculum, there's the hidden voices curriculum, I think, and then some of those pieces have some of those examples that are a little bit more widely known. But they've also developed a lot of these comics that are directly tied to civics for all. So we push them out to schools, and it's not one of the most well-known pieces of the initiative, but it is I think it's a really important one. And the social studies team in New York City Public Schools, they really try to work to not just present content to students in the form of comic books to engage young people and be more relevant, but I feel like they also really try to do a good job of lifting up not as well known but very important civic figures across cultures and across decades and times to reflect the diversity of New York City and the United States, and also and really bring to life really important figures that have made really important changes that may not get as much lead time as some of the more ingrained folks. So this is also some resources that are included in Civics for All. And then finally, we have in New York City, so all schools and districts that engage in civics, including District 20, there's a Civics Week. Civics Week is March 10th to 14th, and it's a time where we kind of celebrate the work that we've done so far in Civics for All. So we celebrate youth voice, civic empowerment, and definitely the importance of registering to vote. So over the week, we hold celebrations and share resources. There's poster contests, soapbox speeches, guest speakers. We engage elected officials. There's a lot of civic connected stuff that happens during that week. And District 20 schools obviously all participate in that. However, our big culminating, and I would love to invite members of the board to our Civics Expo. We hold an expo at the end of the year, end of May. Once we have a final date and location, I'll provide it to Josephine, Barbara, Jane, to you all, and I'd love for you to come and check it out. This is a day where students across District 20, as I was describing before, engage in soapbox speeches with each other on 3 different grade bands, share take action projects, and also share work that they've done around participatory budgeting. It's our kind of big annual, celebration of all the work that we've done in the district regarding Civics for All. That's the end of my presentation. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm happy to take any questions.
I just want to say that when the kids came to present, I was so impressed with so many things. I'm a former teacher, and it was so gratifying to see the diversity of the students, the collaborativeness of their engagement with each other, their mastery, their confidence, their ability to advocate. I mean, all of this came from a project that engaged them in so many ways, and on so many different planes. It was just remarkable, really. And it made me very proud to be part of this district.
I'm really happy I'm really happy that you were able to see it and take that away. I see it frequently, the power of the soapbox speeches, and then the leadership opportunities that come in participatory budgeting, especially the confidence that kids get from succeeding, and agency is a big part of Civics for All, right? Like we're like teaching kids how to be active participants and advocate for themselves and speak and be heard. And we create the conditions in this program to make those things happen in a meaningful way. And the confidence that you see from kids it's amazing. Like it feels really good. So I agree with you. I'm glad you were able to take that away.
It was really a very pleasurable experience to watch everybody, the parents, the teachers, the students. They were just all a community, and a cohesive community. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we find some challenges. I mean, we're able to connect with technology. This is great. We also find that kids get, siloed and, frequently disconnected through technology and social media. And it's great to see how such a kind of like low tech thing like delivering like public speaking be something that really brings out and gets kids energized and excited in such a positive way.
Yeah.
When we have the soapbox speeches, we have, like I was describing before, classrooms full of kids who are basically delivering speeches on topics that they find that are challenging young people today. And the range is very impressive and fascinating, and it's a lot to take in. What is something that I've always really been proud of, and gives me a lot of hope, is how when the kids listen to each other and then give each other feedback, the level of respect that happens with the kids, they're very focused and detailed on the quality of the speech, but they frame it in a very positive way. And I think that really speaks to the in-person nature of it and like what it means to be with somebody and also go through that same experience of having to deliver something in public. It's nerve-wracking. It's something that stresses us all out. And, and you know, and watching, third graders deliver to other third graders, or God forbid, a fifth grader who's, 2 years older than them in that same room, it takes a lot of guts to get up there and deliver that speech. Many of them memorize them. Some of them, work off of note cards. But the level of respect that kids give to each other when they're giving each other feedback and like on a trend of positivity of like, this is what you could have done better. Love your topic, that kind of thing. It's great. Gives you
Yeah,
hope.
I agree. It was within the group that we saw, there really was no competitiveness. They were all on a continuum and they were all helping each other. And that was a remarkable thing to witness. So thank you. And thank you for your presentation, and keep
my
doing
pleasure.
this great work in our district.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone else besides me?
I just want to add, Barbara, if I can, Dr. Preto, just thank you for making this a priority. The community board over the years, and we've had excellent leadership. I mean, that's kind of our goal, is to connect with local students, share with them the importance of local government, how their voice, and really that's what the community board is. We give our community residents a voice and opportunity to voice opinions on a host of matters. And we really do try to collaborate with our young people. They're our future. We want them to continue in our roles as we move forward. We have, cleanups every, twice in the spring and the fall. We've had great participation from local high schools. We get over 150 students that will come out. I have to say, in that presentation last month, I will add middle schools to our outreach list for some of the events, because I didn't quite think that middle schoolers could be so incredibly excited about stewarding, with the local park and getting involved with environmental issues. And I think it was as much of a learning lesson for us and members of the community board, and a reminder how important it is to collaborate. And I think the Civics for All program really district-wide is doing that. And we welcome the opportunity to continue that collaboration with you in any way that you see fit that we can as well.
I think I would love to continue, and I apologize that I haven't come and presented on this until now. So that's my fault. And so I think that connecting with the middle schools, and I might even throw the elementary schools. You're gonna have their parents with them too. But I think that doing park cleanups and things like that are like right in line with this public service piece that comes along with civics. We also have a lot of schools who have been doing National Junior Honor Society at the middle school and at the elementary school level. And a component of National Junior Honor Society is public service. Like the children, it's not just the grades and the attendance. It's also they have to kind of do and demonstrate and write about public service piece that they engage in. And it's just that's another kind of like another thing that's happening here in the district, and that goes right in line with that. So I would love to, be connected and, you know, be a conduit to our different schools in the community in CB10 to make that happen. So absolutely.
Any other committee members with questions? Barbara, I'll turn it back to you. Did we lose Barbara?
Do have a Q&A.
Huh?
Not sure what's the question. Somebody else.
Oh, yeah, there is a question. Dr. Prano, I'm glad to see how civics education and programming energizes our students. Are political leaders and leaders in the community involved in the process too? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. The process, the different processes that students engage in it's all student and school driven. I know that schools may invite elected officials to see some of the speeches or like see the work that the kids have done. But it is very much driven by the students. I have been in discussion with the borough president around, how can we get some of these opportunities kind of more public and maybe in a bigger space. He's a big, I've spoken with him as well as his education chair, and they're both like really committed and to this work and are really excited about it. So, but the structures it's the students. They're the ones I see your hands up, Victoria.
Yes. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I was able to talk. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yeah.
you.
Oh, wonderful. So the idea of having students learn about civics, but then actually going out, I'm excited that they could go out into the community, meet people that are doing things, maybe meet and network with neighborhood stores, neighborhood leaders, as well as politicians that represent them. Many times they don't know the levels of the way things work in government. And I think a lot of adults don't know unless you really are involved in it. So this would be a great entry, perhaps, to get more of the community board members, community leaders, people who are, leaders in their local area, areas of expertise to be part of it. I don't know if there's any legal issue there, but I think students should be going out and meeting and seeing what's really happening, like concrete.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. So when I reference the take action projects, there's at a very small and like we want to keep it at a safe level. We do have students who are kind of doing a little bit of what you're talking about, but it's really close and connected to the school. For example, we've had students who have identified.
I got bumped off. I can't sign in again. I don't understand.
You're here.
We got you,
We've
Barb.
we've had students who identified homelessness. Homelessness was it was and is a big issue, and students wanted to help. They've seen homeless people around. They wanted to know how they could help homeless folks, and we did it in a very safe way. But they were able to kind of determine what were the items that homeless folks that was the most in demand for homeless folks because they wanted to raise money. That was the Take Action Project. They wanted to raise money to provide and donate stuff to homeless folks, and they learned that socks was the number one thing. So they raised money in the school, they were able to purchase socks, and then we obviously had adults. We didn't have kids, but we had adults, kind of deliver these things. So that's an example of kind of small example, but an example of how kids viewed an issue that they saw going out in the larger community and what their plan was to respond to it in their way, and they wanted to raise money to get socks for them.
I understand. I appreciate your explaining that connection. I'm thinking more along the lines that in just in terms of relationships with the local leaders, maybe it's high school or junior high would be the age where they can understand, build relationships with leaders so that their voices are heard directly. Sometimes we don't really listen as carefully. I don't know, or we might siphon some of their, you know, they're wanting to be heard. I'm honestly trying to figure out how students can leave the classroom so that they can see things more in firsthand experience and meet people that can make a difference so they can actually impact something in the future in terms of laws or in terms of how our own little communities work. That's all I'm saying. It might seem, there are concrete examples that I can share with you, but not now. I'm just thinking along that line, that would be a great take action after this energizing part that you said that they can soapbox their opinions, but the take action part is what I'm more excited about. And that's it. So hopefully we'll have more of this. Thank you.
No problem.
Let's see about Serena Chu. Serena, you.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I want to.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I just want to say thank you to Superintendent Preto for speaking tonight. I think civics for all is something that's very important and useful, like what Ms. Curto has just spoke about. I will definitely let Assemblyman Lester Chang know about this. And again, Ms. Curto brought up a good point that a lot of children and adults do not understand the government system. I personally think that, you know, what you spoke about, what the two of you spoke about, brought up a really good point, and it will be helpful for our future children when they grow up. They understand more of the government system. So, Superintendent Preto, can you please send me an email with that presentation so I could forward it to Assemblyman Chang?
Sure.
Thank you. I sent you an email earlier, like 10 minutes ago. But
No problem.
Thank you.
I would just like to mention, and Serena, I believe it's Jane Kapitanakis, Chair of CB10 and also Principal of PS 69, and you've come to visit our school many times, representing Assemblymember Chang. And I just would like to add that the Civics for All Week always presents itself as a nice opportunity for schools to invite our elected officials in. And we've had members of different representatives come to our school, including Josephine, we've invited as well from Community Board 10, and our other elected officials from the PS 69 school community, so that the children can really make that connection and share not just how they're connected to their community through their soapbox speeches and their participatory budgeting work, but also to hear from our electeds at that early age to really kind of set that foundation that we are all connected and that we're all working for the betterment and benefit of our community.
Yes, I agree with you, Principal. Please teach me how to pronounce your name. I don't want to mispronounce it.
You can call me Jane, but they call me Mrs. B at school.
Mrs. T. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's wonderful, and I will definitely let Assemblyman Chang know and to visit your school. And I love the idea how your school, you're educating children about government and how the community works, because education starts from when you're a young child, and learning is just as important. Thank you.
We have a question from Christopher Cesarelli.
Not a question, but just how I work at the Department of Youth and Community Development. You all know that I'm the community board, but I always love these presentations because I come out of meetings from work and we're always talking about building the networks, to build greater success, between our nonprofit partners, but also anything that we can do to help support our young people. And we know that showing them how to be future stakeholders is really about it's empowering them. And I think to just riff off a little bit of the idea that when they see their peers, participate in Civics for All or the Soapbox program, they get that sense of where they are in the world and that they are future stakeholders and that they have that opportunity to do things. And I just love this meeting, and I'm glad that, we're making these connections here and can all support each other going forward like this, because it's wonderful. The presentation, again, I know it was said earlier, but can't say it enough, because when I see, young people coming in before, the community board or any body and like really standing up and articulating things that they researched and feel passionate about, that's going to resonate with them, not just on that day, but beyond, because they're going to say, I did this with a group of people. I was a part of this myself. And we know that we're building a stronger community when they take on these projects and they get a sense of where they live and how they are stakeholders with other stakeholders, and that they can have a voice, and their voice can be strong and heard. And I had a call with a high school student today because she wanted to know about food pantries and how they are, how asylum seekers can access those services. And I was explaining to her that our food pantries are the lowest barrier to entry programs because no one should go hungry. And it's not just, asylum seekers, but it's our older adults. It's all of our most vulnerable population. And for young people to learn these things about where the resources are and how to help other people, I love it. So this is a great meeting, and I hope we continue to, have these conversations and put into action, how these networks can help benefit our young people. It's great. It's a great end to the day, everyone. Thank you.
Barbara?
Can you hear me? No, you
Yes.
you can hear me? Okay. I'm sorry for my brief absence. My computer died. I had a little trouble starting it up again. Are there any more questions from anyone? So again, I want to thank everybody for coming out on a cold winter night. And for those of you who came by Zoom, I thank you for your presence. I thought this was a really productive and educational meeting, which is befitting of our committee and what we came to talk about. So I thank Dr. Preto and Mr. Samuels, and I hope everybody has huge academic growth and success in the rest of this school year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, have a good night.